गिरिवरदारि यशोदनन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यशोदनन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यमुनतीरा यमुनतीरा वनचारी जय नाथ माधव बिहारी जय नाथ माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरदारि जय गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरदारि यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन तीरा वनचारि यमुना तीरा वनचारि रात माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम राम हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम राम हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे जय प्रभुपद जय प्रभुपद जय प्रभुपद श्रील प्रभुपद जय ओम विश्वपाद परमहंस परमदक्ष स्तोत्र सदस्य श्रीमती स्वयं श्री भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय इस्कॉन संस्थापकाचार्य श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय जय ओम विश्वपाद परमहंस परमदक्ष स्तोत्र सदस्य श्रीमती भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती डॉक्टर प्रभुपाद की जय जय ओम विष्णुपाद श्री लखौर किशोर दास महाराज की जय जय ओम विष्णुपाद सच्चिदानंद श्री भक्ति ठाकुर की जय जय ओम विष्णुपाद वैष्णव सर्वा श्री जगन्नाथ दास महाराज की जय जय श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय नवाचार्य श्रीलास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से को श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्वेत गदाधर शिव साधि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपना श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गोवर्धन की जय श्री मायापुर धाम की जय श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय गंगा माई की जय यमुना माई की जय भक्ति देव की जय तुलसी देव की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय श्री हरनाम संकीर्तन की जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद भागवतम की जय इस्कॉन भक्तमंडल गुरुवंद की जय समावेद भक्तिवत की जय गौरव प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल all glories to the assembly all glories to the assembly all glories to the assembly all glories to Shri Guru Shri Gaur and all goes to Srila Prabhupada की जय Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Apatreshu Nityam Bhagavate Sevayam Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhaktir Bhakti Naishtihi. Hare Krishna, welcome to the Friday morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today we are discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 17, Text 10 and 11. I'll read the text 10 and 11. Both are together. Vayam Rajan Jate Jata Rena Bitaptha Yatak Nina Kotara Stena Vrikshaha Tvam Atyayata Yataha Sharanam Sharankyam Yat Sadito Vrittik Karah Patirnaha Tanno Bhavan Ihatu Ratavenam Shudarita Nam Naradeva Deva Yavana Naksh Yamaha Ujjitor Urja Vartapatistvam Kila Lokapalaha Vayam Rajan Jata Renabik Taptha Yata Pina Kotara Stena Vrikshaha Tvam Atyayata Sharanam Sharanyam Yasadito Vrittikarah Patirnaha Tanno Pavan Ihatu Ratavenam Shudar Vitanham Nardeva Deva Yavan Nanksha Maha Ujjit Horja Vartapatistvam Kila Lokapalaha Vayam Rajan Jatarenam Vitaptha Yataknina Potara Stena Vrikshaha Tvam Atyayataha Sharanam Sharanyam Yatsadito Vrittikarah Patirnaha Tanno Bhavan Yato Ratavenam Shudartidanam Nardeva Deva Yavan Nakshya Maha Uchir Dhorja Vartapatistvam Kila Lokapalaha. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Dear King, just as a tree with a fire burning in the hollow of the trunk gradually dries up, we are drying up due to the fire of hunger in our stomach. You are the protector of surrendered souls, and you have been appointed to give employment to us. Therefore, we have all come to you for protection. You are not only a king, but the incarnation of God as well. Indeed, you are the king of all kings. You can give us all kinds of occupational engagements, for you are the master of our livelihood. Therefore, O King of all kings, please arrange to satisfy our hunger by the proper distribution of food grains. Please take care of us, lest we soon die for want of food. Purport Srila Prabhupada ki jai. It is the duty of the king to see that everyone in the social order, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, is fully employed in the state. Just as it is the duty of the Brahmanas to elect a proper king, it is the duty of the king to see that all the Varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, are fully engaged in their respective occupational duties. It is here indicated that although the people were allowed to perform their duties, they were still unemployed. Although they were not lazy, they still could not produce sufficient food to satisfy their hunger. When the people are perplexed in this way, they should approach the head of the government, and the president or king should take immediate action to mitigate the distress of the people. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Vidapadakammalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakarjatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sijivam Satvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padansya Kana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Govindakanta Radha Kanta Namostute Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanuste Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kapasnupaya Vichapatitanam Bhavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Moham karoti vachala pankam Devi Gurume Paramaham Deshi Gurume Dhyana Paramaham Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. So in this verse we today we see that when Maharaja Prithu was crowned as king, there were no food grains. Actually, the food grains were running in a shortage even before his father, King Vena, was enthroned, because Vena stopped all the sacrifices, and thereafter people were unemployed, citizens were unemployed, and they were very upset. And then when Prithu Maharaj was enthroned as the king, uh, the situation continued as it is. And then in this verse, we see that the citizens are pleading with Prithu Maharaj, asking him to give them protection by giving them employment and also food grains by which they can survive. So they are glorifying the king, saying that he's the king of all kings and he's also an incarnation of Godhead. We have already discussed in the previous slokas that Prithu Maharaj was a Shakti Avesha Avatara. And then they are saying that you please also give us occupational enjoyment engagements for all of us for our livelihood. Therefore, please arrange to satisfy our hunger by proper distribution of food grains. Please take care of us, otherwise we will die for want of food. This is the sum and substance of today's sloka. Take some important points. Now the citizens were very, very hungry for want of food. So in this they are pleading, please give us food, otherwise we will die for want of food grains. Now the Lord explains in Bhagavad Gita how food grains are produced. He says, grains come from rain and rain comes from yajna. So whenever there is rain, then grains are produced. Otherwise, if there is no rain, grains cannot be produced. There cannot be any agriculture, and grains cannot be produced. And rain comes from yajna. So whenever yajna is performed, then only it's rains, not otherwise. Now, as mentioned before, King Vena already stopped the sacrifices performed by the Brahmanas. And now the grains are still in shortage. And we will see in the future slokas how Mother Earth does not give grains, some of which we'll discuss today, just because somebody wants it. In this case, Prithu Maharaj, Mother Earth uh, mentions that the grains are stored by greedy people, and now she will start producing it again, which we see even today. Greedy people store more than what is required. Some people store for years together and black market the grains at a higher price. So these are prevalent today also. And that during the time of Prithu Maharaj, actually, Mother Earth says that greedy people are storing grains, and that is why she is not giving the grains. Now we will understand some importance of these slokas today. So the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a mention that the living beings are created by Creator Brahma, and just to ensure that they are maintained properly on way back to Godhead, the system of performing sacrifice was also created by him. That means when Brahma created us, the Brahma also created the system by which sacrifice can be performed. The system is that living beings can live only by production of grains and vegetables. And by eating such foodstuff, they get strength in the name of blood. And from blood, some living beings are generated. But the production of grains become possible only when there is rain. And this rain is made to shower by performance of recommended sacrifices. These sacrifices were different for different ages. In Kali Yuga, the best means of sacrifice is chanting the holy name of the Lord or the Sankirtana Yajna. Now, these details of the yajnas are given in the Samaveda, Yajurveda, and Atharva Veda. Also, in the Manusmriti, it is mentioned that when one offers sacrifice on the altar of the fire, the sun god becomes very pleased. And when the sun god is pleased, he collects the water from the sea, and then he sufficient clouds are gathered, and these clouds then in turn make arrangements for the rains to fall. So when there is sufficient rainfall, then there is sufficient production of grains for both men as well as animals. Uh, and then there is a gradual progress in the activities. The Malachas, however, they make plans to make slaughterhouses to kill the bulls and cows along with other animals, thinking that they will prosper only by number of factories that are established on a day-to-day basis, without understanding that even animals require grains. Animals cannot sustain without grains. Of course, wild animals need not require grains, but animals like cows and bulls, they all sustain on purely from grain. They can sustain only like with grains. So to produce grass, even to produce grass for the animals, there is a requirement for sufficient rain. When there is sufficient rain, then grass grows, which the animals like uh, cows and buffaloes eat. So therefore, ultimately, everything depends on the mercy of demigods like the sun god, Chandra, Indra, and so forth. And that ultimately depends on the performance of sacrifices. So these demigods actually, they also want to ensure when the demigods appear at the time of creation, they also have a responsibility to ensure that living entities like us, they who are rebellious by nature, somehow become devotees of the Lord and go back to Godhead. This is also one of the duties of the demigods. And somehow, if the living entities are rebellious, irrespective of whatever the demigod does, the demigods create a lot of havoc for living entities who are very rebellious by nature. They can create a drought, they can create floods, they can create earthquakes, so many disasters they can create. This is one reason for the uh, uh, rains not being there, and so no grains. The citizens now are also pleading to King Prithu, saying that please you give us employment. That means it is the duty of a king to ensure that all the citizens in the kingdom have their employment, that they are employed, by which they are all engaged also. And that is a very important duty of a king. And particularly, Srila Prabhupada mentions in this purport that all the four varnas, it is a duty of the king to ensure that all the four varnas are fully employed in the state. As we all know, the four varnas are Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra. Now, the king is selected by the Brahmanas. And the Brahmanas, once they select a king, it is the duty of the king then to see that all the other varnas are protected properly and they are fully engaged in their respective occupational duties. So it works both ways. The Brahmanas select the king based on certain qualities, and once the king is selected, then it is the duty of the king to ensure that all citizens, based on the classification of the four varnas, they are all fully engaged. That means the Brahmanas are engaged in preaching the knowledge of the Lord, giving charity, taking charity, and so forth. The Kshatriyas are engaged in the administrative duties. The Vaishyas are engaged in protection of cows and agriculture. And the Sudras, they are all engaged in serving all the above three classes. This is how it is the duty of a king to ensure that everyone is engaged in their respective duties. When they are not engaged, then there is always a problem. So that problem is indicated in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where it is said that people engage in service somehow or the other. The natural tendency of all living entities is to be engaged in service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When that is not done, then they have to be engaged somewhere or the other. And if not serving the Lord, they have to be engaged in serving Maya. But nobody can live without any engagement. For example, if we have to remain in the four walls all fully closed and we have to sit isolated, we will not be comfortable. We'll become mad in no point of time. So we all need to come out. We need to socialize. They say man is a social animal. So the point is that we all need engagement. That is what is called employment. When one is employed, they get remuneration and then it keeps them happy. Uh, when that is done properly, one does not have to uh, go to the goddess of fortune asking for money. When the Lord is worshipped, the goddess of fortune is automatically worshipped. It is said that when the British conquered India, they opened a lot of slaughterhouses uh, for animals. And when they left back, uh, there were not very many cows in the country. So this is what they plundered. And we see that most of the countries, they are rich in something. Many countries are poor in something. For example, it is said that people in Africa, they starve because there is not adequate production of food grains. Whereas America is rich by selling guns and armaments and fight aircrafts and so forth. So this is classification is there, and by this, if there is no proper arrangement for employment of the four classes, Brahmana, Kshatriya, and Vaishya and Sudra, then there is a mismanagement, and by that mismanagement, there is a lot of chaos. It is also said that many countries they have so much of grains that they can't consume. So they dump that excess garment into the sea. Whereas there are many countries where there are not sufficient grains. This all happens because there is no single king, which I mentioned the last class last week. So there's a quote in Srimad Bhagavatam, fourth canto itself, that everybody must have sufficient and proper employment to survive their livelihood. And it is the duty of a king or the government to ensure that people observe, they not only get employment, but they also observe the Varnasrama system. But somehow in Kali Yuga, we see the Varnasrama system has collapsed and nobody knows who is a Brahmana, who is a right Kshatriya, who is a Vaishya, or who is a Sudra. And people claim themselves to be become by Brahmana by birthright only, whereas Brahmana is not designated as by birthright, rather it is designated by the qualities of a person. And it is a duty of the government to re-establish this Varnashrama system and then that they are engaged in proper employment in their respective Varna. That means a Brahmana has to do only a Brahmana's duty, Kshatriya has to do a Kshatriya duty. And it is a duty of the king to ensure that they are all employed properly within the Varnas. When this happens, then there is peace and prosperity in the society. Otherwise, there will always be chaos and confusion. So Maharaj Pitu was an ideal king, and still it was observed that there was a shortage of grains. And Pitu Maharaj, he tried to ensure that all the Vedic rituals are properly performed. Now, Srila Prabhupada, during his presence, he always insisted on that the country should focus on production of farms and production of grains and protection of cows. And he always emphasized on ISKCON having their own farm community. And he said that we must produce our own grains. Of course, there are many farm communities in ISKCON spread throughout the world also. And their focus is, apart from preaching and other things, they also have their own cows and they produce their own grains. Of course, it may not be up to the expectation that Srila Prabhupada had. In fact, Srila Prabhupada said always one thing, simple living, high thinking. And he defined simple living means what nature produces, living with land and cow. And anything other than that is Maya. So the point is that uh, uh, if we don't have grains and if we don't have cows, from where will grains come? So Srila Prabhupada was dead against so many factories being established, producing cars, mobiles, TVs, and so forth. And he clearly said that a time will come when this technological innovations will come to an end. And those who are establishing these factories, so-called factories, will go to the villages where farm communities are there, and then they will say, please give us grains. And it is happening gradually. If you see, a few years back, television was very popular. Television industry today is not so popular. It has been replaced by mobile and so forth. So there are so many factories producing mobiles. And one thing is that mobiles and cars cannot feed one's uh, uh, hunger. I mean, you need food for satisfying your hunger, whereas these things cannot satisfy one hunger. At the same time, whatever technological innovations have happened, they have only created chaos in the society. For example, in the earlier years, people were communicating with each other, but there was no phones. Then the landline phones came, the connections were perfect and communication was going on. Then came the mobile phone. When the day the mobile phone came, network problems started. Similarly, if you see cars, people were always traveling. Even before, people used to travel long distances, even going on yatra, etc. But they used to go by walk, and people were healthy. After cars and other things came, there were accidents, there are pollution, there are traffic jams. Whereas in the yesteryears, people used to travel by horses and bulls, and now these horses and bulls have been replaced by cats and dogs. That is why we see when you go for a walk on the on side of the road, you will see that the cats and dogs they pass stool, which is stinking. Whereas when the cows were there and the cow's dung is actually purifying for the human existence. And I have also seen during the yesteryears when people in the villages they used to cover their roof by putting a paste of cow dung, which actually they absorbs a lot of heat in summer. So what happens is that those days there was no AC. In villages, there was no electricity, and the heat was severe. So they used to apply this cow dung paste on the roof, which used to absorb the heat, and that's how they were feeling. Uh, and they were not feeling the heat. So there are many things in the shastras and the scriptures which are natural and which are also healthy. And today we see that whatever we eat, they are all filled with pesticides. Many people cheat still saying that it is organic, which may not be organic. We don't know. And these pesticides, uh, infested food grains, lead one to cancer. And that is why we see that cancer is growing day by day. There are also stipulations in the Shastras for plucking tulsi leaves, for plucking flowers, etc. It is said by science itself that even plants communicated within themselves. And there's also mentioned that when one plucks the flowers from plants, they feel the pain, but then we pluck it to offer it to Krishna. But if the same thing is taken for personal sense gratification, that pain which the plant is feeling, we take a part of the karma for that. So these are some regulations which are there in the Shastras. In fact, Lord Krishna, when he was himself present, in the childhood time, he used to take the calves for grazing. And as he grew up, then he reached the stage that Mother Yashoda gave him cows. So Krishna himself set an example that we should keep cows and bulls. Bulls give agriculture and cows give cow milk, which are cow milk is required for sharpening the human brain tissues for understanding spiritual knowledge. Srila Prabhupada actually said that after 100 years, people will be starving out of grains. And we see that today, every second day or every second country does not have grains to eat properly. Whereas Srila Prabhupada stressed that we must always have communities which does not depend on government, because government's this thing is based on uh, at least the governments in Kali Yuga, their governments are based on purely sense gratification, not varnasrama dharma. So he said, if you have your own farm communities, we produce our grains, we don't have to depend on the government for that. And she also defined that uh, simple living means to take what is required to keep the body and soul together. There is a sloka in Isopanishad also, which uh, says Isa Vashyam Idam Sarvam. That means one must take only what is required to keep the body and soul together. But human being has become so greedy these days, they are not satisfied. So they hoard a lot, they take more than what they can consume. So with the result, there is a scarcity. Otherwise, there is no scarcity for anything. Another important point that is mentioned in the scriptures is about selling land. It is said that land is nothing but Mother Earth. And just like one does not sell his own mother, similarly, land is never to be sold. And in the Vedic times, the land used to be given in charity by the kings to the Brahmanas or Vaishyas and so forth. It was never purchased. And now we see that land, selling land and buying land is a big business. And that is why those who indulge in this, they are selling their own mothers. And this was predicted in the beginning of Kali Yuga itself, that people will reach a stage when they are starting to sell land, they're selling mother, they will reach a stage, they will sell oneself also. Because by the end of Kali Yuga, there is nothing to eat. Finally, they have no other option but to sell themselves. And we see that many times, even in the present situation, people who sell their children. And we see this in the news regularly. Whereas this Bhumi Devi is a Lord's internal potency. So one has to take care of this Bhumi Devi. In fact, it is said that drilling of the land is not at all recommended, but we do it for our sense gratification. During the Esther years, we were all depending on well water and people were healthy. There was no issue of unhealthy or falling sick because there was no drilling. So drilling is against the injunction of scriptures. So with all these reasons uh, and people hoarding grains, when Kupitu Maharaj was crowned as king, Mother Earth hid all the grains. Still worse, these days we find a lot of artificial grains, artificial sabudana, artificial sama, artificial rice, artificial wheat. So many things are happening. One more important vital aspect is that during the Esther years, the Ganges and Yamuna were clean. There was no question of contamination of these river waters because they are naturally clean when they come from the upper planetary systems. And now what happens is that after the evolution of plastics and all, this is what is science. Science one day predicts that you use plastic because it is good, it has long life. And we see that plastic is one of the reasons for contamination of the rivers like Ganga, Yamuna, etc. And now science says it is not good for health. So what happens in the last couple of years, we have contaminated the whole earth, spent a lot of money, and now we are going to spend some more money to clean the Ganges and Yamuna, which grows in thousands of crores. So this is what the scientists do. They discover something, then they, after some time, they propagate that it is harmful to human society. This is what technological advancement is. Also, there was no system of mineral water in those days. It was only well water, and people were living healthy. One important point from today's thing is that a cow gives milk only when the calf is brought to the cow, and mother cow is becoming satisfied by seeing the calf. When cow is satisfied, then the milk flows out of her love for that calf. But nowadays, the calf is not taken to the cow, and then artificially the milk is drawn from the cow. With the result, the cow's milk that we are drinking is not given out of love of the cow. So what we are drinking is a sinful milk, and the cow goes through a lot of pain when the milk is drawn like that. So we are drinking milk, but at the same time we are drinking milk that is causing pain to the cow instead of uh, the love that the cow should have for its calf. So and all these things are naturally provided by the Lord. But human being is so greedy and envious and so forth that they change everything. They rebel against the Lord and have their own systems. They develop their own system which are against the injunctions of the scriptures. You all might have heard Kedarnath, Badrinath, and so forth. These are all holy places, even which were existing in the previous years. And people used to go by walk or by horse and so forth. Ever since the helicopter system came, so many accidents have taken place. But before there were no accidents. This is what is called karma. Similarly, the forests are natural resources given by the Lord. And it is said by science itself that when there is a heavy rain, it is the forests that hold the water and prevent the water from entering the city. But the forests have been demolished with the result that they have been destroyed with the result the water floods the cities. And there is always havoc in the cities whenever it rains heavily. And particularly, India was known for all these scientific uh, perspectives, which they have all forgotten over a period of time. And India was also known for agriculture. And now we see that many products are imported by us, which have a lot of artificial pesticides. And pesticides are very, very harmful for the human body. That is why Srila Prabhupada could foresee all these things. And he said, please establish farm communities. He said that we are fools whose roots are actually in the villages, and from villages we came to the city to have a higher standard of life. But in the process, we see that our life standard has degraded day to day. This is what was uh, prevalent in the yesteryears. Years. That is why it's called Vedic system of life was very healthy. On top of that, our people brought, Srila Prabhupada clearly said that tomatoes, brinjals, capsicums, these are not Vedic, but they are all imported from foreign countries. Now, coming to the next important point in this today's sloka, as I mentioned in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, that the king is a representative of the Supreme Lord, and the king's interest must not be different from that of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord wants that all the citizens become obedient to him, and thereby they become happy. So therefore, the king's duty is to see that all the citizens are guided to become devotees of the Lord. And when the four varnas, they do their respective duties as per their classification, then there's a perfect cooperation and the kingdom is full of opulence. When there is an ample production of grains, then people don't have to eat animals. But when there's a shortage, then they resort to eating animals. So during Emperor Parikshit Maharaj's time, there was a plenty of abundance, there was abundance of everything, right from grains to so forth. Similarly, in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a mention as to how during Maharaj Yudhishthira's time, the clouds always showered water. The earth produced all the necessities of man in profusion. And the cow uh, milk bags were full with milk, and they were all very happy. And the cows, out of their happiness, used to moisten the grazing ground with milk. So this is how the cows were happy, which led to the people being happy. So Srila Prabhupada always said that the basic principle of economic development is centered on land and cows. In fact, there was a quote from Srila Prabhupada that cow is uh, cow is the acharya for milk, and Krishna is the acharya for protect is the acharya for cows. Therefore, Krishna carries flute. When Krishna carries flute to enlighten the cows, and when Krishna was there, he had 900,000 cows. Each had a different name. And when Krishna used to call out these cows, by names, they used to come rushing towards him. And Srila Prabhupada also mentioned that Balaram is the Acharya for agriculture. Therefore, Balaram always carries a plow. And when Balaram is pleased, then he gives a lot of grains. This is the basic principle of economic development. People need milk, grains, and basic things like clothing, etc. They don't require machinery and so forth. So during Maharaja's Yudhishthira's time, people were very happy because the rainfall was under the control of Maharaj Yudhishthira, because Yudhishthira Maharaj was a representative of the Lord. He had the power to regulate even rain. So this is how powerful the kings were. Which due to which there was sufficient grains and food products. Similarly, enough silk and other cotton was available for men's clothing, for citizens' clothing. So when all these are available in plenty, there's a mention in the purport that what was the need for cinema, cars, radio, flesh, and hotels. Now you see that hotel is a thriving industry these days, and the hotels have made people lazy because now people don't want to cook at home. They are waiting so that they can have a hotel food delivered, and couriers have made it very convenient that food can be delivered at your home, at your doorstep, whenever they want, whatever they want, at whatever price set also. You had so many varieties. So all this has contaminated society today with the result people are not living a healthy life. And because they are not leading a healthy life, they are living a life of distress. They are not happy. And there is a mention, the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, as to how Lord Krishna, he himself set an example as a teacher to the human society. He showed how the mercantile community, the Vaishyas, are to be protected. In turn, Vaishyas protect cows and agriculture. And in the Smritis also, there's a mention that cow is the mother and bull is the father of all human beings. Because we suck the milk, we take the milk from the cow, it is just like we suck the blood of our own breast of one's own mother. So human society takes cow's milk. Similarly, the bull is the father of the human society because the father earns for the children just as a bull tills the ground to produce full grains. So cow is the mother and bull is the father. And human society will kill its spirit by killing the father and the mother. One important point is that nowadays the trend is that when a cow stops producing milk, these cows and bulls are sent to the slaughterhouse for killing. Now the British installed a lot of slaughterhouses, and we, the Indians, like fools, are sending these animals to the slaughterhouses. So if by killing the cows and bull, it's as good as killing our own father and mother. That is the reason the society is not at all happy. And it is mentioned in the Shastras that when a cow becomes old, even at a stage, if it is not giving milk, the cow needs to be protected. That is what a king means. King means a Kshatriya. Kshatriya means to protect every living entity that is taking birth, right up to the time they leave the body. It is not that they stop giving milk, so they are sent to the slaughterhouse. It's a great sinful activity. Then there is an important mention about how when there is a proper economic development in these ways, then the thieves and rogues don't uh, uh, exploit. And if one offers food to the Lord and eats, the Lord becomes pleased. Otherwise, if one does not offer food to the Lord, then the one who is uh, cooking, one who is honoring it, they are all likely to be punished. So under these circumstances also there can be shortage of grains. That's why it is said that the Shastra that one should always accept prasada. And if one doesn't accept prasada, he is a thief. And it is the duty of the governors and the head of the states to ensure that they all honor prasada. If that doesn't happen, then grains are not produced. These are the reasons, some of the reasons. The four varnas are compared to the uh, four parts of the Lord's universal form of the Lord. The Brahmanas are compared to the head of the universal form because Brahmanas require intelligence to understand the scripture and pass the message to the citizens. The Kshatriyas are compared to the arms of the universal form because Kshatriyas need strength, which comes from the arms. The Vaishyas are compared to the waist because that is where the stomach is. And the Shudras are compared to the legs. So the four parts of the body, that is the head, the arms, the waist, and the legs have to cooperate within each other. You have to cooperate with the body. The hand cannot say that it will put food only on its hand. The hand has to put the food in the mouth, then the food gets digested and the energy is distributed throughout the body. So there has to be just as there has to be a proper coordination between all the parts of the body. Similarly, there has to be a proper cooperation and coordination between the four varnas. Then there is a perfection in the society. Then in today's sloka, there's a mention that the citizens were not lazy, they were all active. But then because they didn't have employment, they complained to the king. And whenever such complaints go to a king, it is the duty of the king to resolve the issues. It is not like today's king that they will make some promise at the time of election, but the end result is zero. So whenever the people are perplexed with all these scarcities, the duty of the citizens is to go and approach the king, and the president or king should take immediate action. And we see that these days, even the citizens can't meet the head of the state because there are so many security guards. That is the condition of the king. Whereas the kings of the yesteryears, used to go out to the city and meet the people. They used to go to the villages and meet the citizens in the villages, and they all had an open access. No, nothing was hidden, and there was no security or something like that. But as Kali Yuga is progressing, we see that situation has very deteriorated very badly. So these are the important points in today's class. If anyone has got any questions, any comments, they can ask me.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Danda Pranam Prabhuji.
Danda from Bhakti. Yes, Bhakti, tell me.
Thanks for a very wonderful class, Prabhuji.
Yes,
Prabhuji, as you were mentioned in the class that one should not sell the land. It's a
yes,
mother.
yes.
So how to understand this, Prabhuji? Like the earlier days, also the kings also they used to donate land, but they used to donate, they used not sell like that, or how
Yes,
to?
the lands used to be given in charity by the king, depending on the king knows whom to give how much. So land was never sold. And it is also the duty of the Brahmanas to take in charity and give in charity. The Brahmanas never used to accumulate. They used to keep what is required for them and then for their maintenance, and then they used to give in charity. This is how land was. In the last, as Kali Yuga has started, people have started uh, land selling as a business, but it's a very great sinful activity.
But
You're
since
selling
they,
it.
as you said, there is no varnas, no ashrama here in like it's very difficult now, Prabhuji. Correct?
I know, but the thing is, what is happening today is people are taking land more than what is required. Prabhupada always stressed on what one should take. Everything belongs to the Lord. You can only take what is required for yourself. You can't use it as a speculative business and make money out of it.
Now it is nowadays it is all total business only. After Kali Yuga started, all these things are happening, Prabhuji.
Yes, right, that's right. But we should understand from Srila Prabhupada this thing. Srila Prabhupada never said that don't buy land. He always emphasized that don't invest land for putting up a factory. You put it in agriculture. Srila Prabhupada wanted all of us to go to the farm and settle down. And
As you mentioned in the class, simple living, I thinking simple
yes,
living.
sir. Yes, Prabhu.
Mhm.
We
So
see
Prabhuji,
people are
like,
selling. We see people are selling children these days because they are
yes,
hungry. It's a daily
yes,
article in the news. So how long will it take? In fact, in Africa, I think people there's already a scarcity of food grains. So when people become old, they kill them and eat their flesh. So one day, it's going to spread everywhere, and this is what is predicted in the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam.
okay, Prabhuji. And Prabhuji, and how can we, what should be done for the Mother Earth, like, should it say Mother Earth to specify and do something for Mother Earth? What one should do, Prabhuji?
Two things. One is we should not engage in buying and selling land for our personal sense gratification. And Srila Prabhupada said, whoever can promote agriculture, there is nothing better than that because ultimately land and cows are the two vital aspects for economic development, not factories. So if we can give up our present occupation and go to the villages and take some land, you won't get anything in charity, of course, these days. Only thing, best thing you can do is utilize whatever money you have, open a farm, keep cows, and develop agriculture.
Yes, Prabhuji.
You
And he
are
mentioned the class
helping.
also that in the class also that the earth should not be drilled and something like that, Prabhuji.
Yes,
Drilling, but
yes.
drilling is required, Prabhuji. Like we need the bore well water or something like that, or else
People
where will
survived.
you?
People survived without borewell. There were wells which were full with water.
Yes, 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 yes.
Now, with Kali Yuga, then wells are also dry. So people want to
Mm.
drill borewell. Borewells are also becoming dry.
Yes, 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 Prabhu. Yes, yes.
So whatever we do, we exploit material nature more than what the thing is. Washing machines consume a lot of water.
Mm.
Then similarly, your what do you call dishwashers? They consume a lot of water.
Correct.
So we are using natural resources for inappropriate means. So we are bound to face scarcity. Somewhere or other, we have to pay the price. We are all paying for it.
Yes, yes, Prabhu. Yes, 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 yes.
But I believe the farm communities that have been established in the last couple of years in ISKCON, even nationally or international places, they're all doing very well. They are not running after mobile phones. They are not running after cars. They are living a happy life.
Correct, Prabhu. Correct.
We can
But
set an
Prabhuji,
example.
to do the farming also, it's very like it's not that easy, Prabhuji. Physically, one should be that fit also. So doing farming, like we think like that, okay, farming we can grow like this, we can do it, but so much of digging is required, so much of seed and time to time watering, other things, and
That is why bull
lot
is
of
required, Prabhu. A bull is
yes,
required for farming. We
acha, like
cannot
that.
do, but bull is required for farming.
Correct, 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 correct.
That is why I
And
mentioned about the bull being the acharya for grains. We may not be able to plow the ground, but bulls can do it.
bulls can do, yes, Prabhuji. Bulls. So one way, mother is a cow and bull is a father in one way, Prabhuji.
Not one way, it is a fact, Prabhu.
It is the fact. Yes,
Whatever
yes, yes,
Shastra says is correct because father works hard to give money. So bull works
yes,
hard to give us the grains which are required for maintaining of a body.
yes, 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 yes. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much,
Okay.
Prabhuji.
Thank you all
Jai.
very much.